Welcome to the first ever Like I Am podcast, where we're going to talk all things music with different people from the music industry. Could be bands, producers, promoters, radio, literally anything or anyone. And we're here with our first ever guest on the Like I Am podcast. He is based in Derby. He's a producer. He's had his production plays on BBC Radio 2, lots of plays on BBC Introducing, and has been running his own production company for a little over 8 years. So please welcome Ben Haynes.
Hello.
How was that for a build-up?
That was very, very nice. Thank you.
Lovely. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through production, talk about just lots of tips, tricks for people out there who need it, and we've got a few questions which we've had off Facebook for you, which we'll get towards at the end. But first, let's start with what your first kind of memories of music, like maybe music your parents listened to. What your first kind of the first bands you remember hearing and stuff.
Well, I was the youngest of 4 kids.
Right.
So there was 6 of us in the house, and I was the youngest by quite a lot. So growing up, I had all kinds of music that was being played. So my dad, he used to listen to classical music. My mum used to take me to church, so I'd hear kind of folk music at church and organ music. Plus she'd listen to Simon and Garfunkel and that 60s type of stuff. I had a sister who was into rock and metal. I had another sister who was into pop. I had a brother who was into really weird avant-garde stuff and indie. So honestly, it felt like almost all bases were covered growing up. I just used to hear everything.
So you literally had everything growing up then.
Yeah. I just sort of heard it all and absorbed it. And plus, without showing my age too much, it was the 80s when I was kind of young, and there was a whole load of what I think is great stuff going on in the 80s. And it looked like musicians were having the time of their lives. Yeah. That was the time where all musicians looked... They had videos on yachts, and they all looked very rich and very happy. And
sounds very Duran that aimed.
Yeah, lots of that. And lots of like towards the late 80s, there was lots of videos with them all in stadiums, And that, when you're 7 or 8, that's really impressive.
Oh, yeah.
And besides that, just from an early age, I just loved music. I would listen to it all the time. So no one in my family was really a musician. We had a piano, but it felt like I was the only person that played it. And from quite an early age, I used to tinkle on the piano. I used to build drum kits from pans and boxes and play them with
wooden spoons.
And chopsticks and things. And I think we got like a cheapo acoustic guitar. So I just learnt through sort of experimentation, because I never got lessons and anything.
Cool. So did that, as you got older, did that lead to, did you do the bands thing? Was you in bands and stuff?
So my first unofficial band was when I was about 8. Me and a mate called Jim, we started a band called Jenim, which is an anagram of our names with a silent B at the end.
Right, nice.
And I've still got cassettes of that. And that was, again, it was me hitting boxes and him strumming a guitar tunelessly and us making up songs about whatever we could see in the room at the time.
Right.
So that was fun, and we used to record it onto a tape and pretend that we're making an album or playing live and stuff.
When you press play and record at the same time.
Absolutely,
on the tape,
And we invented studio recordings, because one day we decided to get his tape recorder as well as mine. So we could record something onto my tape and then play it back whilst recording onto his tape, and then there'd be 4 of us.
Wow.
And we were like, we've just invented something amazing here.
Wow.
If only Duran could see this.
Yeah, they'd be all over it, yeah.
But then my first proper bands where we were actually kind of playing real instruments was when I was about 12 or 13, and I started a band in school called The Relics, and I played drums, and that was the most exciting thing in the world.
Not a bad name, that.
The Relics.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that in lights.
Yeah,
maybe a reunion's necessary.
I think it maybe is. Yeah.
Are them lot still playing, or are they all off? They all doing music or?
Well, there was 3 of us at the core of it,
Right.
and one of the guys is still my best mate, but he lives down in Cardiff now.
Right. Okay.
And the singer lives down in Bristol. I see him, every now and then. They both still do music, probably not to the same extent as I do, because I'm doing it all the time. They don't do it for a living, but they still definitely play.
Lovely. That's cool. So, have you jammed recently, or is it something that?
What the relics?
Yeah.
We
do you still meet up and have kind of a?
I'm sure. We got together about 4 years ago because there was a guy at our school called John Gill. He was a music teacher.
Right.
We had 2 music teachers. A horrible woman called Miss Chester who hated anyone who didn't play the oboe, and used to throw us out the music department constantly.
Yeah.
But also a really cool guy called John Gill who was really, really encouraging, and for me in particular, he really gave me a lot of confidence. He used to say, you're a really good musician, you go for it. And he retired about 4 years ago, and they did a big concert, so we reformed for that.
Right. Okay.
And played after no rehearsal, which was fun.
Wow.
But that was
Was that covers?
No, it was alright, because our singer Mark wrote his own stuff, and
Okay.
right from the age of 13, 14, he was a great songwriter.
Right.
Wow. He wrote some really good stuff, so we played that.
So you had a reunion with no practice?
No, I think we literally kind of, those 2 ran through the chords on acoustic guitar, and I tapped along. We're like, that'll do.
Okay.
So,
right.
yeah.
Wow, that's wicked. So let's move on to what you're doing now, the music producer. What was you doing before you decided to jump into this?
Well, I was in bands for a very, very long time.
Okay.
But my favourite part of being in the band was always recording.
Right.
So I used to love playing live, but it could be a pain in the arse at times. And I used to love recording, and I loved the process of it. And I was the guy that was probably quite annoying, because I used to sit next to the sound engineers, and I was like, no, do this with the guitars. No, the snare's got to be louder, and bring the vocals in here, But I really got into it, and I remember being unhappy with a few of the mixers, and immediately knowing what was wrong with the mixers, and saying, I know exactly what's gone wrong here. And I kept thinking, I'm sure I could do, like, with no disrespect to the people that were recording me at the time, but I'm sure I could do a better job than this. So I started getting recording gear, and I started tinkering with it. And, about sort of 14 years ago, I sent an email out to my mates saying, I've got some recording gear. Does anyone want to come and do some stuff?
Yeah.
And plenty of people did. And I started going from there, really. I absolutely loved recording, and I only record singer-songwriters for 2 reasons. One is that there's enough studios in Derby that record bands, and they've got it down to T, and they do it brilliantly. But also, I love working one-on-one with someone.
Yeah.
Instead of a band where there's 4 or 5 different opinions, it's one undiluted idea, and my job is to get that idea out of the singer's head.
Yeah.
But the other reason I love it is because I get to play on their songs. I get to play guitar and things. So it's good creatively as well.
That's something we were going to get into in a little bit. But for those of you, obviously, because it's podcasts, can't see, we're sat in necessarily your shed.
Yep.
But it's a very well built shed.
Yeah.
So it's just a massive shed, and it's got soundproof windows, doors, and inside is everything you would need to record an album. It's soundproof. There's mics everywhere, and it. So how did it come from? You wanted to be a producer to, do you know what? I'm going to do it from home, and I'm going to build this. Yeah.
Well, it got to a point recording Friends where I'd start to charge,
right?
Because I thought I've got a number of reasons. I thought I've got to think like a business immediately.
Yeah.
Because I do want to do this as a job, but also because I wanted people to know that what I was doing was good, and my friends didn't mind paying.
Yeah.
So I had that on the sideline whilst doing a full-time job.
Yeah.
And then my daughter was born, and it was a pain trying to get everything done. What happened then was in 2010, 2011, I can't remember, I was working at the NHS, and they offered voluntary redundancy to any of the staff because the recession hit the NHS 2 years after everyone else.
Yeah.
So they said, look, we need to make some cuts. Does anyone want to go? And they offered a very decent redundancy package. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to go.
Right.
And it was a complete shot in the dark for me because, you know, my daughter wasn't long born. We'd just bought this house.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go into something that was completely, I'd done it kind of on the side for my mates, but could I get full-time work
so it
out
was
of it?
a bit of a risk at the time.
It was a massive risk. And I told my wife, and she was she was like, but, you know, actually, she to be fair to her, she messaged me at work and said, you know what, you only live once, let's do it. And I said to her, look, I'm not going to let us go hungry. I want to try it for a year or for as long as the redundancy money tides us over. And if it doesn't work, then I'll go and get another job, any job, and that'll be the end of it. But I said, I just want to really, really try for a year. So that year, I quit my job and I went at it good and proper. I was working like 13, 14-hour days, getting my website done, working on songs, and just trying to promote what I was doing, just to show that I was out there.
Yeah. Has your partner's opinion changed now since you've been doing it this long and it's worked?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, she always trusted me, and she always had faith, even though I said, you know, it could go either way. You know, I'll try my best. But yeah, you know, she's she loves what I do. She can't get her head around self-employment.
Right. Okay.
She can't get her head around the fact that it isn't a consistent wage coming in every month.
Right. Okay.
It's up some months, it's down some months, like anything self-employed. Mm-hmm. And she also doesn't quite understand the creative process. You know, so she thinks I should come in here at 9 o'clock on a Monday and leave at 5.
Right.
And that's what you do. And I said, creativity doesn't work like that. No. Sometimes you have days where you're really onto it.
Oh yeah.
And you come in at 6 and you're on it till 10, like at night. And some days you have days where things just aren't working. And I think every creative person gets this, but you get days where you just feel that everything you're doing is crap.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And I've learned now that the best thing to do is turn everything off, go for a walk, and do something else. Right. You know, because there's no point trying to power through it because you'll just feel worse.
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And also sometimes ideas can hit you at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, ideas. The best ideas come when you're not trying.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah. So when it came to building this studio and stuff like that, who did you go to look for advice or?
Well, when the business, the music production business, started to work out, I was up in the loft in the house.
Right. Okay.
And it was fine up there, but there was a bit of a height restriction. Anyone over 6'1" had to stoop. It was a bit.
So all the bass players.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
It was just a bit rubbish up there, and we had some savings, and Sarah's aunt passed away, and Sarah inherited a little bit of money. So we decided to put it into building this.
Okay.
So we went to a garden office manufacturer.
Okay.
And they did specialist ones that are soundproof.
Wow.
So got it built from scratch. It was a lot of money, but it's been worth it, you know.
So if you're whacking away at the drums, can you hear them in the house? Or?
Yeah, you can hear drums. Pretty much everything else you can't
hear.
But drums are just such a loud instrument.
Yeah.
And it's the bassiness of it.
Do you get along with your neighbours?
Yeah. No, it's been all right, you know. I think the only problem is that in the summer it gets really hot in here, so we have to open the doors. But no one has ever complained. No. So it's pretty cool.
Well, must be lovely neighbours then.
Yeah, they're good ones.
So when you eventually got this built up and running, all the gear was in here.
Yeah.
how was it finding the artists to come in? Was that a struggle, or was it something that there were people around here that needed it?
Yeah, when I first kind of went full time and I got my website up and running,
Right.
one of the most important things I did was I went to I went on a course for SEO, search engine optimization, to work out how to get your website to the top of Google.
Okay.
So I did that and I put everything in place and I went to the top of Google straight away. Like literally, if you put Music Producer UK into Google,
Yeah,
I was
you
at the
come
top.
up, yeah.
And like even now, I'm still second or third or something. So I assumed that I would just be working with people in Derby or the East Midlands.
Right.
But actually what happened was that people came from not only all over the UK, but from all over the world.
Yeah.
So I kind of advertised and people came from, America and Australia and
Yeah.
London and places like that. So
Did it add the pressure knowing that people were coming that far to work with you, or
no, I don't mind. And quite often what we'd do is we'd work over the internet.
Right.
So, I'd create the track to their specifications, send it over to them, and they record local to them, the
Yeah.
vocals, and then send them over. Occasionally, someone would make the trek all the way here. There was a woman from Qatar,
Right.
and she was just like, "Yeah, I'll come over to you and record and take a flight and stay in a posh hotel nearby," which was, amazing that someone came all that way. Second time she recorded, I said, "Do you want to come and record here?" And she said, "I could do, but how much does Abbey Road cost?"
Oh,
And I was
okay.
like, so I looked into it, and it was 900 quid for the smallest room in Abbey Road.
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
like, "Yeah, let's do it." So
Okay.
we
so you went.
we worked at
recorded
Abbey
her.
Road, yeah,
Oh, okay. Wow. So you
Which
took a
is
woman
pretty
from Qatar
yeah,
who flew all the way over down
Yeah.
to Abbey Road.
yeah.
Wow.
That was a pretty good day.
That wow. That sounds amazing. That.
Yeah.
So what was it like working at Abbey Road? Because I know as I look around, I can see a lot of Beatles stuff.
Yes.
And in your house, there was a lot of Beatles stuff, so I can imagine that was.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. You get there and there's loads of people outside, and you get to go.
Are they doing the walk along the?
Oh yeah,
the-
you can
the
tell
road,
that all
yeah.
the traffic's
The Abbey
getting
Road,
right
yeah.
annoyed as well. But everyone's waiting outside, and you're allowed to go in. you
Yeah.
know, which is amazing in itself. But we had an engineer who's based at Abbey Road, which meant that I could focus just on the production, which
yeah,
was great.
Yeah.
But on our lunch break, he said, Studio 2, where the Beatles recorded, there's an orchestra playing there. He says, they've gone on their lunch break. Do you want to have a quick look?
Okay.
So we went in, and it took my breath away when we opened the door, because it looks exactly like it used to.
Right. Okay.
So if you've ever seen footage of the Beatles recording or any of the
Yeah.
photos, it still looks exactly the same.
Wow.
And there's a piano down there, which they would most likely have used, and it's amazing. It's
Wow.
amazing, and it's so big. The room is massive, and you have to go down some steps from the actual studio
Okay.
area. So it was quite an amazing experience.
Wow. So as you said earlier, you work with mainly singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
I'm assuming most of them are acoustic kind of, or is it? Do you have different artists, or is there kind of certain type of people that you most likely find over here?
Yeah, I have a whole spectrum, really. I suppose the most frequent kind of person I get is someone who has written a song on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And wants to record it. But I have a whole spectrum. So on one end of the spectrum, you have people that self-produce,
Yeah.
but just want to send me the track to cast an eye over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe add bits here and there and tweak the mix.
Right.
And that's it. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you get people who can't play an instrument and can't even really sing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I had one guy from Greece, and what he sent me was him murmuring into his phone.
Yeah.
And he said, turn that into a hit. And I was like, all right. So I had to do everything. I had to kind of turn the murmurs into words. I had to write a melody, chords, get a singer in. But we did, and he was really happy with it. And it's still a good tune, to be honest.
What did he get out of that?
He just got a song that he co-wrote.
Okay, fair enough.
And he could say to, he didn't have any ambition to kind of make it bigger or anything. He just wanted to say to people, look, I've got this song.
Okay, so if you can't play an instrument, murmuring works.
Apparently so.
So
bring your murmuring here.
So if you if you are an acoustic artist out there who probably necessarily can't play bass, drums, keyboard, you can do all of that, and you can help them with the track and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's a number of things really, because I put an instrumentation onto it, but it's also about getting the best out of the song and out of the performer. So working out what's the best structure is for the song.
Yeah.
Getting the best vocal out of the person.
Yeah.
And making them feel comfortable. That's just a massive thing. One of the good things about being in here is that I'm not on the other side of a glass panel with a red light where I talk to them through an intercom.
You're literally a metre away.
Exactly, and I think you'll find it's 2. But,
2 metres, yeah.
But it means that they can sing, and then I can turn around and just say, okay, shall we try it this way? And it's a much more personal way of working with somebody. And I did, when I first got this place built, I did think about putting the glass panel in, but then there's no point.
No,
it's much nicer as it is.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's very personal, and it must be nice interacting with people just there.
It's all right.
So as a producer, as people doing most things, you're always learning.
Yeah.
As you go, what's the kind of biggest thing you've learned recently? Kind of even doing it for so long. Is there something you've kind of learnt recently and then gone, and then you could have done that?
Oh, do you know what? I don't think there's one big thing. It's just like you are constantly learning small lessons.
Yeah.
That all add up.
Yeah.
If I look at stuff that I did 8 years ago, I can't really listen to it because. Okay. But I also assume that in another 8 years' time, I'll look back at stuff I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And go, because I think that with everyone, it's always a learning process. And if you're not learning, then there's something wrong. If you think you're the best at what you do, then you're just deluded. But no, I don't think anything massive.
No.
I think the biggest epiphany I've had throughout this whole journey is that you don't need masses and masses of plugins and effects and instrumentation. You don't need, because you're constantly being sold by adverts and stuff and the magazines and stuff. You need this bit of gear. You need this bit of kit.
Right.
It's not true. Just going back to the Beatles, they had probably a 50th of what I've got in my studio. And they made some pretty good stuff,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
They're all right.
Yeah, they did their bit, yeah. But
you just don't need all that stuff. And I think it's there to distract you. It's there to make you pay money and take up your time, because to learn every new bit of kit you get, you have to put time aside. So I think it's just about working with what you got.
Yeah. Cool. So one of the things that you do that a lot of people, I'm not sure whether they would do the same, is when you record an artist and the song's been released, you don't take any royalties or anything like that. The song is 100% theirs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. What I basically do, and it's on the website, the thing is, when someone puts a song out and they're an unsigned artist, it's unlikely to get to number 1 or anything like that. So there's no point in me saying, I will be taking 3% of this.
Right.
And, it's not really my place to. But what I do say is that if somebody gets signed with a track that I've produced, the producer's points kick in then.
Right, okay.
So, and that would just be 3% or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's for kind of for new artists or unsigned artists, or no, I don't. I never take any songwriting either.
Yeah, I think especially instrumentation wise, because if you have got a singer-songwriter that's just playing acoustic guitar and singing, you've played everything else.
Yeah,
that's most people would probably, if they're 90% of the track, they'll want But so it's good that you.
What I think with songwriting credits is if that song has been written and can be performed on acoustic guitar and vocals, then it exists as a song.
Okay,
it doesn't matter what I put on it; it's still a song. It's like that is the house. I'm just decorating it.
Yeah,
you know?
I like it. I like the way you're looking at that. So I'm gonna make you pick your favorite. This is gonna be like picking your favorite child right now.
Right.
What's your favorite track you've ever produced?
Oh God.
In here or since? Because people won't be able to see. I'll try and get some pictures up on social media. But you've got every time you record an artist, you take a Polaroid.
Yes.
And it's on your wall. So
all
of those
fame.
people, what's your favorite track you've?
Oh man, I've got a few. Can I say a few?
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
Well, I really like yours.
Oh, lovely.
And I'm not just saying that because you're interviewing me.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I would have said it anyway. I really like it. I think it's a really good song.
Okay.
People
probably might not know that I recorded here a couple of years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
and that song's still flown about.
Yeah, Heartbeat by Billy Reynolds.
Yeah.
No, I really like that one. I was really happy. I mean, the song was great anyway, but I was really happy with how it turned out.
Yes.
And it sounds very radio friendly. So really like that one. I work with a lady called Kezia Gill, and I really like a lot of the stuff that I've done with her. If I had to pick a song, there's a song called Control, which we did in a day.
Okay.
And
the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
Wow.
So, although didn't we do Control, your track pretty quick
My
as well?
track, I think we did, I came in, did the guitar, and then you did your bits.
Right.
And then I think I came back and did the vocals. But it was literally...
still pretty quick,
both times, I think I was only here a couple of hours. So I think it was about 4 or 5 hours altogether.
Yeah, with you here.
With me here, yeah. So.
Well, that's the thing, you know, I tend to favour the things that took the least time because, A, you don't get bored of them, but B, I think that those things sound fresh. I think that, you know, occasionally you get artists that come in and they want to kind of really overthink everything, and I think you can tell when something's been overthought.
Right.
It just doesn't feel as fresh. Having said that, another one of the tracks I like was by David Lacey, called Treading Water, and that took blooming months. But I listened to it and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So. Cool. So what I've done is, because this is the first podcast, there's probably not many people know what I'm doing.
Right.
So I couldn't really put a question out on social media with questions for you. So what I did was I went on a kind of producers group on Facebook and said, if you've got any questions you'd like to ask a producer,
right, drop
them in. So I've got a couple of them which I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
So I won't drop the people's names in because I'm not going to lie, I think a lot of the names that people are using weren't their real names.
Right.
Because I think there was a lot of rappers and stuff in this group. But I'm going to ask you anyway. What is the one thing that every song needs to have that spark? Is there one thing that a track needs to have that kind of...
Not a definable thing. It's an indefinable thing that it needs to have. Do you know what I mean? I can't say what makes a track great. It's an... Oh, gosh, that's a really hard question.
Because one of the things that a common an answer I noticed was a good vocal is key. Would you agree?
A good vocal is key, but then, you know, if you listen to the Sex Pistols or Bob Dylan, maybe it's not key. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously you've got to try and get the best vocal.
Yeah.
You can, and I think the song is the most important thing.
Right. Okay.
You know, if the song is bad, then you can dress it up, and you can do what you can with it, but you're kind of limited. So I think the song is the most important thing. Yeah, that's the only thing I can say.
Fair enough, that's fine. When you listen to your production back, doing those final kind of tweaks, what's the thing you're looking for? As in, are you looking for it all to how do I word this? This is a very dodgy question someone wrote. What's the first thing you listen for in production? How do we pass that on? I don't know whether that is when you're mixing. Maybe is what.
So like, when do I know when it's finished?
When do you know when it's complete and you're happy to right? That's finished.
Yeah, it's basically one thing with me is I never work to a formula. It's completely intuitive how I work, and it's a series of little micro decisions, which is constantly, does this sound good? Yes or no?
Right.
So at the point where there's no more no's.
Okay. Yeah.
That's when it's done. You know, and that's it really, because you can tinker with things forever.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily make them better.
Right.
You know? But I kind of just work with a track and mould it until it's right. You know, I think there's no procedure in the studio that can't be matched with a cooking metaphor.
Okay.
And it's the same with cooking. You know, I cook in the same way as I produce, which is I throw stuff together until it tastes good.
Right.
And when it tastes good, it's ready.
I like it. Yeah.
And that's the same way I produce. Quite often I pick up a guitar and I don't know what I'm going to play.
Okay.
And then I just start playing. And if it sounds good, I leave it on. And if it doesn't, I scrap it and do something else, you know.
Right. Okay. Cool. So then there's one more. The last one is, do you ever listen to other people's production and get frustrated?
No, I don't, because I think that actually that's a lie. Occasionally, I'm not in the business of listening to other people's production and saying that's not right, because it's a creative thing, which means that there is no right or wrong.
Okay.
There's enough people out there saying, oh, he should have used a different snare drum for that, or you must use this compression on your bass, otherwise you're not doing it correctly. I don't buy into all that. So I think that anything, as long as it sounds good, is a viable thing to do. Going back to your question before, which sort of ties in with this one about what lesson I've learned. Just bear with me while my brain catches up. Yes, that's it. I used to worry about my mixers quite a lot.
Okay.
So I did used to worry that they weren't technically perfect. And then I read something from a mixing engineer who basically said he worried about that too, and that he goes on the emotion of a mix, an emotion of a song, and how it makes him feel. Is it getting all the right things buzzing, Right. I was like, well, that's actually what I do.
Yeah.
Technically, there are 18-year-old university students that know a lot more than me about how things work. But I just go purely on vibe and intuition. And actually, that's worked for me, and I think it can work for other people. So, yeah, that's a long way around to saying I don't criticise other people's mixes, because that's their way of doing it. Yeah. As long as they've done it with their ears and not their eyes. I think sometimes if you mix with your eyes and mix it how it should be, according to theory, in inverted commas, then it won't sound great.
Cool. Are you recording anyone today?
I am actually, yes. I've got a guy called John Hardy coming at 5:30, and he's done some little folky numbers. He had a double bass in our last session. Wow. Which I've never recorded a double bass before. That turned out pretty good.
Was that a new challenge, or?
It was. I had to Google how to record a double bass, because I've literally never done it. But it turned out beautiful. And he's coming to record some vocals today, and then some cello in a couple of weeks. So.
Is that new single, new EP? What's
new
that?
EP, it would seem.
EP?
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the first ever Like I Am podcast.
Not a problem. Good luck with it.
I've very much enjoyed it. It's it's been really good.
Oh, I hope it's been useful.
So thank you very much. Where can people find you online if they need a producer?
Okay. Well, I've got a website at www.haynesmusic.com, Haynes with a Y, and I'm on Facebook as well, Haynes Music Productions.
Lovely, thank you very much. If you want to check out all the Like I Am social media, on Instagram it's at Like I Am Pod, and Facebook it's just Like I Am. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, Ben, for joining me.
No problem.
And yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Goodbye. I don't know how to end this thing.
This is the end of the podcast.
There we go. Thank you very much.